Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Khorne and the Ogre Kingdoms here on the Decrepit Moor. It's going to be Arbaal the Undefeated. We'll see if he maintains that title, facing off against Grombrindle, who's going to be using a Slaughtermaster Brag as well, which is pretty fun to see. He's very off-meta Brag, but the rest of the Ogre build is extremely meta. It's going to be Pigback Riders backed up by Lead Belchers, which of course you're going to love the protection of these spears, and a Thunder Tusk as well, which is just pretty much good against everything. The Thunder Tusk is outstanding against infantry with its anti-infantry and its snowball attack, but it also has a hunter on top whose damage profile isn't really included here, and he throws an anti-large javelin as far as I know, which does quite a bit of damage. So that's going to be it for the Ogre build. Obviously, probably a healing caster, I would imagine. If you're going to be investing in any sort of a big monster, whether it be a Thunder Tusk or a Stonehorn, these days really just going to be the Thunder Tusk. You're going to want the heals that the Slaughtermaster does bring. Granted, Meat Feast is very good, and you can kind of get away with not bringing heals, but I think it's the way to go. So for the Khorne build, going to be Marauder Horsemen out in the Vanguard. Looks like two of those, as well as the Korn Gores, which I really like. You know, getting a couple Korn Gores up on the point are going to be very nice for getting those points on the board immediately, and also putting pressure on your opponent, because, you know, Ogre Kingdoms still do bring a fair amount of large targets, even though Pigbacks have really kind of changed the dynamic of how they're played. Korn Gores are still an outstanding choice because they have enough killing power to kill Pigback Riders and can also be good against the bigger targets. The Hellforged Bellowers, this thing has been nerfed a little bit, but is still considered to be insanely good. This is the ROR Skull Cannon, which is going to put some hurt down potentially on the Lead Belchers. We'll have to see if it's able to zip across there and get the shots, or maybe go after the Pigback Riders, which is, again, a great choice. In the woods, Arbaal is going to be leading his forces, so we do have Arbaal the Undefeated, and he's going to be rocking what? So he does have the Explosion, the Fury of the Blood God. This is a very good ability. You want to throw him in the middle of a Noblar unit, use it, and it will karate chop them pretty badly. And I would imagine the Chaos Spawn Summon, you don't really leave home without that. And the Thirst for Challenge, okay, so the effect is going to be increased when he's surrounded and there's a bunch of entities nearby. I think it's pretty fun as well. And yeah, the Spawn Summon is an auto take for sure. So a little bit of skirmishing out of the gates. We do see the shooting coming in from the Skull Cannon, getting some work done on the Pigback Riders. In the meantime, the Snowball of Doom is going to be going after the Chaos Warriors. And Shielded Warriors have been, you know, I would say somewhat meta against Ogres for a long time. They hold pretty well against the Ogre Bull type unit. Very vulnerable against, you know, any sort of a big monster like this. But yeah, they can get her done. So Harrison's going to be on the defense. He does, of course, have his home objective, and the forces of the Ogre setting up a bit of a defensive concave here. You can see this kind of RTS semicircle going down with Pigback Riders saturated in between. And the first column is going to be what in the backfield? It looks like it's going to be some Noblar Trappers. Meanwhile, the Korn is just calling in more infantry, I would imagine. Yeah, Hounds of the Blood Hunt, Korn Gores. Korn looks like they're doing a bit of a build-up where they're going to try and get a critical mass of units to overwhelm the more defensive army, which is a very common tactic, of course, popularized by Tim the Wilder, as you guys have seen in the tournaments of old. But here we are. Hellforged Bellowers is going to be ripping shots into the Thunder Tusk. Probably not cost-effective. Shooting into the Lead Belchers and or Pigback Riders is the better call. And these things are really nasty. The Pigback Rider Knights, these RORs, these things are freakishly good. They have like a charge bonus of 60, which is pretty absurd. Almost comedic, right? Like really, come on, it's Noblars carrying Noblars. They shouldn't have a charge bonus that's like better than most heavy cav. I think Questing Knights, which are literally just these huge barded war horses, have like a charge bonus of like 40 or something. Which, yeah, Pigback Rider's a bit of a meme for sure, but yeah. Arbaal the Undefeated, going to be circling about face and looking for an engagement. But you can see, look at the javelins from the Stonehorn. This is what makes it so filthy. If it didn't have that anti-large javelin on top, I think it would be much better. I mean, Arbaal's already taken a lot of damage just from that javelin attack. And now Khorne's going to be moving up and going in for the kill. And Thunder Tusk and Lead Belchers getting brutal damage on the advancing warriors. And that's got to hurt pretty bad. Lead Belchers are already very good against the armor. And the snowball shots are really only going to be adding to that. On the backfield, we do see these shots coming in from the Hellforged Cannon of Doom, able to melt down these Pigbacks, and now the Khornate Hordes are going to be pushing in. Korn Gores leading the charge. In the meantime, the Hellforged Bellowers continues to rip shots into the Pigback Knights, which will actually probably do some respectable damage on the charge here, although they're so beat up at this point, probably not. And how are they steady, by the way? It's kind of a weird one. Yeah, they're just such a strange unit. I feel like they overperform in so many ways. Now, Arbaal is very quick. He does have 95 movement speed. Going to be taking advantage of that to get into the backfield here. And he is going to start getting kills on the Lead Belchers. And obviously, we need to get them a lot lower to turn them into spawn. But the Korn Gores and the various Marauders advancing on all fronts. Iron Gut's coming out. Iron Gut's going to be taking these guys to Pound Town pretty damn bad. We do see the Marauders getting just beaten down by the clubs. I think that Iron Guts are one of the coolest looking units on the Ogre roster. Probably my favorite Ogre Kingdoms unit in general. Now, the Korngors here, they might have a chance of winning this. I think they will. I think the Iron Guts and the Pigbacks will lose that 2v1 right there, that 2v2. So that is advantageous for Khorne. But in the meantime, the Ogres are doing a pretty good job on the defense. Grombrindle is keeping his Lead Belchers alive, getting focus fire on the Halberd units, and the Thunder Tusk is probably going to be able to tear out off these Chaos Warriors. Although, they do have ITP while their Frenzy's active, and it looks like they're going to be hanging in there like champs. But that Thunder Tusk really, really running excellent interference. So Arbaal may be an opportunity here. I guess not. No, Bragg the Gutsman. Yeah, I forgot to mention he's in action here. So Bragg does have his execution ability, and if he's able to catch his prey, he can take things down pretty quickly. I think that the Eshin Maneater, aka Steven Seagal, is a little bit more of a meta pick because of his bound snare ability that he does have, but Bragg, I've seen some use out of him as well. So on the back point here, Ogre Kingdoms looks like they're in the position where they may be losing this to the Korngors. The two Korngor units were able to defeat most of the Iron Guts and the big Ogres on this objective. Arbaal and his Skull Cannon going to be heading over this way. In the meantime, good play here by Harrison, using his Marauder Horsemen to make sure that the Ogres don't just flip this objective super easily, because two characters on foot, they're 3 capture weight each, and these things are 4, so it really does mitigate the efficiency of the capture. It allows time for the Korngors to make their way back. Now, heading back over to Objective 1, it looks like the Blood God was able to get the contested objective with the heavy infantry aggression. The Thunder Tusk is trying to protect all these Lead Belchers from the various Hound units. Out of the woods, we got Ogre Bulls with dual weapons, should be able to fend off the Hound units, but it seems like Khorne was able to get the momentum it needed just with swaths of infantry and, Hounds and mobility, just very combined arms army here, and did shut down the Lead Belcher shooting. Now, there is one downside to the units like Thunder Tusk, is that they are relatively expensive. Granted, they should be more expensive, but when you spend that much gold on a big monster like that, you're going to be kind of focusing more on the value than you are playing the objective game. So sometimes you can be overwhelmed on the points and pay the troll toll, but typically a monster build is going to come back later on after just crushing you and, just capture the objectives in the late game here. Arbaal running away. The cowardly defeat from Bragg the Gutsman. He's got his big old beat stick here, and yeah, it looks like Arbaal does not want any of that. This is definitely not a Khorne play. But, tactically speaking, it's probably a good idea. Bragg, especially with the great Gut Gouger active, he's pretty terrifying. He hits very hard. I mean, 750 weapon strength anti-large and had 80 melee attack on that bad boy. That was definitely the correct play from Harrison. Now, the back point is stabilized. We do see this being held down by Korn. The two Marauder Horsemen able to get the job done here. And the Hellforge Bellowers, so it looks like they're just continuing to shoot at whatever they can. Lead Belchers are running for the hills. And back on the objective, it looks like Korn does have the points lead, 548 against 471, as Arbaal the undefeated. I mean, the Arbaal the tactically retreating. Arbaal the falling back in good order. He was not truly defeated in that duel with Bragg. He just decided to run and fight a little bit more effectively somewhere, I suppose. You guys, we'll make exceptions here. For the Houndos, I'm trying to nibble here and protect the Skull Cannon. Skull Cannon still has the opportunity to be used in melee and farm a little bit of ammunition. Not so easy against Ogres, since Pigbacks are pretty much the only infantry we're seeing. Outside of the Monstrous Infantry, of course, which are tricky to farm against. And now we have the Eshin Maneater. Okay, so this is the other part of the formula for Ogre Kingdoms. Steven Seagal he's pretty good, and he's a good fighter, but more importantly, he has this ability, Mark for Eating. This is insanely good. It's infinite charges, and it has a 2-minute cooldown, so you're going to be able to use it, several times over the course of a long domination game. But you can lock down enemy heroes, lords, units for pivotal fights. It's just so good. So Arbaal's on the run, being hunted down by the Thunder Tusk. Looks like, Grombrindle wants it pretty bad. He's getting the blood and he's getting the blood here. He wants it. He wants to chase down Arbaal, but probably not going to work out. Arbaal is on his Fleshhound, and he's extremely quick. Objectives, we do have Objective 2 being held by Korn, Objective 1 still being held by Korn, but Ogres are threatening it a little bit now with the Ogre Bull dual weapons. But here we see some Wrathmongers coming out. All right, that's super cool. Now, I always wondered about their applications against like Monstrous Infantry and things like that, so I'm curious to see. Granted, at this point in the game, it might be a little bit hard to gauge their efficiency, but probably a good target for Grombrindle to use his Thunder Tusk on, I would imagine. Now, Steven Seagal getting the job done. This is what it's all about. He marks the Hellforge Bellowers for Eaton, certainly a strange appetite choice, but he does get a lot of good damage against the Hellforge Bellowers. Its speed is very slow. Marked for Eating has a pretty long duration as well, and it's a really, really nice play here, but Grombrindle has a lot of single entities, right? He's got the Eshin Maneater, he's got Bragg, he's got the Slaughtermaster, he has the Thunder Tusk, which is really going to be hurting him in terms of like battlefield presence. I mean, in terms of value trading and sniping things, it's pretty good. And Ogres are down in value, 9.1 against 8,000, but there's been a lot of healing. Ogres are probably honestly pretty equal in value, if not maybe a little bit ahead in some ways, but it's hard to say. Arbaal did get his Spawn Summon off, which is pretty good. It provides some nice monstrous presence here to push these Iron Guts off into the Shadow Realm. And the Hounds of the Blood Hunt going to be helping as well. We got Minotaurs with Great Weapons being called in for Korn, which is an excellent tool. And Arbaal, he's been breaking ankles this game, man. He's been juking back and forth, putting the moves down on Bragg as well as the Slaughtermaster here, while the Wrathmongers are going to be trying to get in combat. Looks like they're trying to help their homie out. And is he marked for eating, or is he just going to be stunned? All right. So triple cap here still for Khorne, but if something disastrous were to befall the Khorne Lord here, it could be a little bit precarious. And the Monster's Impact, yeah, it's pretty cool that Bragg can get that. He can get Monster's Impact when he rams you, it slows you down. So Dismember also activated, but good save here by Harrison. Calling in the Korn Tour. So now this is a very, very tough situation for a Grombrindle, right? We have Bragg the Gutsman and the Lord here, but they're surrounded by Wrathmongers and Minotaurs with Great Opens. That is a hell of a lot of stopping power. And you're going to be seeing the HP of these units just tanking. Bragg the Gutsman getting wrecked pretty bad. Home objective here is still owned by Korn. I mean, Ogres have not been able to get that back. And the Hellforge Bellowers are back online, having gotten about 1,500 value. So not even paying for itself. So yeah, they buffed it up to, or nerfed it up to 1,600 gold cost, and I think it's still, it's still very, very good. Jury's still out in terms of my opinion. This is probably going to be the game-sealing play. There was a little bit of momentum from the Ogres, maybe with getting a snipe and getting a leadership issue across the Khornate army. But yeah, Bragg getting wrecked, and the Wrathmongers and Khorne Tours and Arbaal, still technically undefeated here in this battle. I mean, the battle's still yet to be decided, but now he's going to be able to cause some havoc, chase down these characters, get the kill. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ogre's trying to get in there using the Blood Vultures, which are a very, very strong unit, to jump on the Marauder Horsemen. The Eshin Maneater, here he is. I believe he has the capture weight of a single entity, even though he's technically in the infantry rung. But yeah, he's able to push those guys off. And the Ogres might be able to get this one back. Hard to say. Although Bragg as well as the Slaughtermaster both rally, so potentially an opportunity for a very fortunate 2v1 with the Execute here. I mean, Bragg might be able to get it done. If Harrison is not paying attention, this could be a little bit precarious. So 2,800 HP. Slaughtermaster tries to punch him, but it looks like he is going to get away. Dismember activated, so his speed's down to 34. Bragg the Gutsman does get the Troll Guts, going to be trying to make it work. As we get more Ogre Bulls being called in, Thunder Tusk here is probably just casual. Yeah, just a casual 4,000 value for no particular reason. Pretty nutty. It's a good thing those things are limited to one. I mean, honestly, there's arguments to ban them, but it's you don't want to be too neckbeardy and just ban everything, Yeah, finding limitations is fine, and Ogre's win rate isn't that egregious, even with a single Thunder Tusk being allowed right now. I think it's 55 to 60%, which is high, but, not the point of no return, right? So Arbaal's going to be heading in and trying to get an assassination, but Steven Seagal as well as Bragg the Gutsman are here, so that's going to be dangerous. He's marked for eating now, so his speed's going to be down to 60. Still faster than the Ogre characters, but you can't get low against when your Bragg is nearby. If he's able to get you with that Execute, man, that is a big value momentum shift. So here we do have the Khorngors coming out, or Chaos Warrior Halberds. Oh, I love it. The Chad Harrison play. You don't need the lame Khorngors when you have this super cool 8-foot-tall Chaos Warriors with halberds. All right, so they're going to move in there, and they are going to definitely take apart these Ogre Bulls, and they will take very little damage in the process. And here we have the Hound units and the Marauder Horsemen cleaning up the overextending Blood Vultures, so they're going to pay the price. Meanwhile, Arbaal, the Undefeated, was able to get a shatter on the Slaughtermaster, who's broken several times, and he's going to be cackling all the way to the bank. So that's basically going to be it. No more play for the Ogres. They're triple capped. That was a really, really nice game. It was fun. Got to see a lot of strong units on the table. I always like seeing my boy Arbaal, but he did kind of just serve as a distraction Carnifex that game, a powerful character that warrants enough to chase him. But Grombrindle heard the sweet siren of Korn a little bit too hard. He was chasing Arbaal for a large portion of that game with much of his power, and I think that kind of hurt him in other areas. Also, typically there's a philosophy in Total War. If you're going to be going gun or any sort of ranged pressure, you don't want to be complementing it with other single entities and expensive elites, because then you won't have the assets to protect these things. Granted, they still got good value because Grombrindle's a great player, but I think he needed a little bit more real estate on the battlefield to protect these. Maybe cut Bragg, he's really expensive, and then get 3 more Pigback Riders, or cut Bragg and get 2 more Pigback Riders and an Ogre Bull, just to give you some coverage on the ground so they don't get shut down so early and they can really generate you a ton. But yeah, super fun. Skull Cannon got about 1,500, so 8 gold short of paying for itself, and the Hounds did good. Minotaurs got 1,800. Wrathmongers, they did all right. The Wrathmongers is probably just a hype pick from Harrison, probably not super meta in this matchup, but I mean, arguably, I guess Wrathmongers are just such killing machines that they would be good against the Noblar infantry as well as the Bulls. Yeah, something to explore. All right, GG, well played. We'll see you guys around, and that is it for tonight.